Today we're going to be starting our new chapter. This will be chapter 13, where we are working primarily on perimeter and area. So we're going to start with 13.1 today, where we're talking all about perimeter. All right, so first, before we get started, we're going to take a look at perimeter and what does that actually mean. So our definition for perimeter is the distance around a closed figure. Okay, so what we're saying is how long or what is the distance to go completely around a closed figure. All right, the way I like to think about this is think about your yard. The perimeter would be if you put a fence all the way around your yard, that becomes the perimeter. All right, so we're going to take a look here. We have a triangle. The first way we can go ahead and solve these problems is by just taking a look at what the distance around the shape is. So we always will have a unit because we want to know how far it is around. Are you talking about feet, miles, inches, yards? So in this case, we're inches. And we'll look, we can see that we have one side here is 4 inches, one side is 6 inches, and one side is 5 inches. So what we're going to do is we're going to add all those together. So what we're essentially doing here is we're getting the distance around the whole side by just adding them. So if we started walking here, we'd walk 4 inches. Then we'd add 6 to it, the 6 inch would walk here. And then we'd add that last 5 of our walk back. So that's that distance around the entire shape. And to get that, we can just add the 3 sides up. If there were 4 sides, you'd add the 4 sides up, and so on. So when we add those up, we get 4 plus 5 equals 9, 9 plus 6, 15 inches. So our distance around would be 15 inches. So that is our first way that we can solve it, is strictly by going in and adding up all of the sides, by going around the shape and finding what all of the sides add up to. Now, there are a couple of special figures where we have a formula where we can actually plug in our formula for it. So we're not just adding this time. Now we can kind of use a formula or a way to figure it out by using our math skills. So the first one we're going to take a look at here is our rectangle. All right, so the perimeter around a rectangle. Now, from what we know about rectangles is we know that our top and bottom here, our opposite sides, are the same distance. So L is going to be the same on both, just like W is going to be the same on both. All right, that's what we know about a rectangle, is our opposite sides, so these two would be opposite and these two are opposite, are the same. All right, so one way we can figure it out is we can do just like we did above, where we're adding each individual side, where we're adding this length, plus this width, plus this length, plus this width, as you can see that here. The other way we can do it is we can mix in some multiplication in that formula that we can use to solve this. So for this, what we're doing is we're taking 2 times L. So we're taking this side, multiplying it by 2 because there's 2 of them, plus our W times 2. So what we'd do is we'd end up by just taking each number, so 1 of each side, multiplying it by 2, and then adding them together. It will get us the same answer as this. This just allows us to do it with a little less adding. So a rectangle is the first side, and again, this one works because what we know about rectangles is that the opposite sides are the same. They are equal the same. The next one we know is, our next special shape is a square, so the perimeter of a square. All right, now what we know about squares is that all sides are the same length. So in this one, we have all sides being S. So in a square, we know that every side is the same length. If this is 4, all of them are 4. If this is 5, all of them are 5. Okay, so the first way we can solve it, just like we did with our triangle, where we took 4 plus 6 plus 5, or over here where we took L plus W plus L plus W, we can do strictly by adding S plus S plus S plus S. Okay? But because of what I know about multiplication, I know that this is saying 4 groups of S. I can also do a multiplication problem. So if I'm just given one side here, let's say I just know that this is S, I can take S times 4 because it is a square, and I can get my perimeter that way. So these are the different ways that we can solve our perimeter problems. Again, straightforward, adding up all the distances around like we did up here. Okay, that works for our rectangle, that works for our square. But with these two, we also have a formula we can use. So we can take 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. Or for our square, we can take 4 times one side because all sides in a square are the same length. All right, so these are what we're going to use today to solve some different problems. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look in our book now and take a look at a couple examples of how we would solve these perimeter problems. Taking a look now at our examples in the book, we have our guided practice problems here. So we're going to take a look at number 1 and number 2. So we know a couple things about this. Is one way we can do it is we can add up all of these sides. So we are given all of these side lengths here. So we have 8, 8, 8, and 8. And we can add those up. So that would be the first step. Because again, what we're asked to do here is find our perimeter, which is strictly the distance around the shape. So we're taking all of these sides and adding them up. So what we're going to do is we're going to simply add them all up. So I have 8 here, and I like to cross them out just so I know that I've used it. 8 plus my second side here is 8. Okay, cross that out again, plus my third side is also 8, plus my last side is 8. Now I'm going to double check. I've added my 8s. I have 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 8s, and around the outside I also have 4 8s. So now I can go on and do my addition. I know that 8 plus 8 equals 16. Okay, same over here, 8 plus 8 equals 16. Then when I add them together, I know that 16 plus 16 is 32. Okay, so my total distance around the outside would be 32. Now I need to check my unit, and if I take a look here, I do see that my unit is cm. Cm stands for centimeters, so I'm going to put that cm down here. My distance around would be 32 centimeters. Now, the other way I could solve this is I noticed that while going around, all of my sides were the same length. I have 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8. When I have a four-sided figure where all my sides are the same length, and you can see these little marks here, this also tells me that they're all right angles. That tells me that I have a square. Okay? If I think back to my formula with the square, I know that I can take one side here, this 8, and I can multiply it by 4. If I multiply it by 4, I will end up with 8 times 4. If I need my multiplication helper sheet, I have that right here on the whiteboard for me. I know that if I trace my finger with 4 to 8, I end up with 32. So this would be another way to solve this problem is by using that formula. Both times I'm getting the same answer of 32 centimeters. All right, so let's take a look at number 2 now. All right, number 2, you'll notice we have 4, 7, 4, 7. So I do not have the same situation as number 1. I'm not working with a square this time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my way of just adding around. Again, my perimeter is just finding this distance around. So I like to think of it as a fence around a yard, or if I'm just walking around this yard. Okay, so I have 7. The first time I walk that 7. Cross that out so I know I've used it. I've walked this distance now. Now I'm going to turn and walk this distance, which was 4 inches. So I'm going to add that 4. Then I turn and walk this side as well. That was 7, so I'm going to add that 7 again. And then finally I walk this last distance and I get back to my starting point, and that was 4. All right, so now I end up with my problem is I'm adding 7 with one side plus 4 plus 7 plus 4. So that's my entire distance around the shape. So I'm going to go ahead and add those together. I know that 4 plus 7, when I add those together, I end up with 11. And same over here, 7 plus 4 is going to be 11. And then when I add 11 together, I will end up with 22. So my distance around is 22. And then I'm going to check my unit. My unit was IN, or inches. So I will label that answer as well, so I know exactly what I'm talking about. For this, I notice that it is a rectangle, given that my opposite sides are the same. They're both 7, and my opposite sides are the same. They're both 4. So what I can also do, and I have my right angles here. What I can also do is I can use my formula for this. So if I'm plugging this into my formula, what I'm going to get is 2 times my length, which was 7. Okay, that would be in parentheses because I'm going to do that first, plus 2 times 4 here, which was my width. All right, when I solve this out now, I get 2 times 7 equals 14, plus 2 times 4 is 8, and when I add 14 and 8, I also will end up with 22. So that's another way to solve this. So again, perimeter is really working on that distance around the outside. Example that I like to think about is think about a fence around your yard. How much fence is it going to take? Or if you walk around the outside of this yard, how long will it take you to walk? And it's just we can get it by adding up all the sides, or if it is a square like it was in number 1, or if it is a rectangle like it is in number 2, we do have these formulas here that will help us solve these as well. So we can always fall back on those formulas. All right, so go ahead, take your time, watch through this video again if you need more help or another refresher on it. But then you're going to return to your Seesaw activity, complete all of the parts, the homework, the extra math, and the IXL that go along with this unit. If you have any questions, join your teacher's office hours for more